Garland in the corner. He's got it.
Feed stands. Pow with the running in.
Mitchell shakes up to the basket and thunders it home. Oh! Mobley throws it down.
And Allen blocked the shot at the rim.
Welcome to the Chase Down Podcast, part of the Cavs media family. I'm your host, Justin Rowan. The Chase Down is presented by Fubo, the official streaming partner of the Cavs. Watch over 350 channels of live sports and TV, including FanDuel Sports Network without cable. There's no cost and no commitment. Try for free at FuboTV.com/Cavs. The Cleveland Cavaliers were not able to extend their winning streak against the Detroit Pistons, but have been showing some real positive signs as of late that they are getting this thing going in the right direction. And joining me today is my co-host, Carter Rodriguez. Carter, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. Thanks for holding down the fort. Big shouts to Tony. Of course, he gets the post super fun Spurs win pod. And I get this one, but
are we noticing a trend? Are we noticing a trend here,
there's data.
there is data, and now the sample size is getting large. I'm getting concerned about your performance this year, buddy.
Well, I went to the Nuggets game, which is my first game of the season, which was really great. Had a bunch of friends in town for New Year's, so again, very much appreciate holding it down. Though I think I'm starting to pay the price, Justin. As you might have noticed, I'm sipping on water here because my dumbass is getting sick, opposed to my much preferred standard Diet Coke.
Well, that's good. At least you're not getting that caffeine right before bed. I worry about that with you. I don't know what the deal is.
I don't sleep when I don't have caffeine before bed. I don't sleep when I do have caffeine before bed. It's my curse. You gotta let me live, brother.
That's fair. You know, sometimes you just got to play your game, which is something that the Cavs have been doing a lot more as of late. They are 2-1 since our last podcast. As I mentioned off the top, they were not able to get a win today against the Detroit Pistons. They were shorthanded in this one, down Jared Allen as well as Dean Wade. As we know, Max Strus still out, as well as Larry Nance Jr. So the Cavs were forced to go small quite a bit against a Pistons team that is probably on the short list for teams that you do not want to be small against.
Even without Jalen Duren.
Even without, I was going to say,
and
obviously was, yeah.
And you could even argue that the guys they were missing are the kind of guys that don't traditionally punish teams for going small very well outside of Jalen Duren.
Yes.
Tobias Harris, Karis LeVert, those aren't like, oh man, we got to bulk up against those guys. Like, that's just not what they do.
Yeah, and I think you also felt it on the offensive end as well, where the absence of Jared Allen did make it a lot more difficult for the Cavs to kind of get the offense rolling, right, and to get comfortable, because Allen is the best screen setter on this team. And frankly, when he's not in the lineup, they don't have anyone that I would argue is a plus screen setter. I think Dean does a good job at times as a pick and pop big, but obviously he wasn't available as well. Sometimes, the guards are good screeners for guards, but they're not someone that's going to free you up when an SR Thompson or a Cade Cunningham is on you.
Yeah, it was pretty nuts in this one was Javonte Green. He was a bulldog out there.
Yeah, he was playing really, really good basketball, but this is this is a little atypical for the Cavs to lose against the Pistons. They've been playing this style for a while, but coming into this game, the Cavs in the Donovan Mitchell era were 12-1 against the Detroit Pistons. This is a matchup that they have dominated, regardless of who's in the lineup. We've had games where neither guard was available, and Mobley and Allen. I remember, I think that was early at the start of last season, where Mobley and Allen just went out and they dominated on the inside with neither guard available. And obviously Darius had the game-winning shot in the game that Mitchell missed last year, went into Detroit when the Cavs were not playing well and dominated them earlier in the season. So this was a little bit atypical, but the interesting thing about it is Detroit definitely has some of those traits that have given the Cavs trouble in the past, right? Whether it is rangy, really strong point of attack defenders, whether it's ability to generate second chance opportunities, or have a two-way guy come in and hit 6 of 6 from 3, because that seems to be another thing that just seems to happen this season.
Well, Justin, when it rains, it pours. Obviously, it is a weird game. I think it was like midway through the third quarter after they had kind of fought their way back from the Dennis Jenkins explosion. And I was like, I feel good about this game. And I got to say, I didn't leave the game feeling as good as I felt in the mid-third. I thought the Cavs process was pretty rough at points, in a lot of different ways, in that fourth quarter, even as they were fighting back. But yeah, it's weird, like I wanted to be grumpier about losing to a Detroit team that airballed like no less than 9 threes. Then I look at the box score. They shot 38% in this game from 3.
Right.
They actually outshot the Cavs. They made one more 3 on 2 less attempts. They went perfect from the free throw line. Not something they traditionally do, though. I mean, almost exclusively guards got free throws for them, so it's not that crazy. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about it, dude, because it's like, on one hand, yeah, they're missing guys, and they're guys that would really help against this Detroit team. But there were just like these frustrations, like, you get, yes, Denis Jenkins kills you in that second quarter, but like, you didn't really do much to stop him. The lineups, I don't think, worked crazy well tonight. Like that group in the second that got blown off the floor that also started the fourth. And like, I thought that's where they lost the game, by the way. The first 3 minutes of the fourth quarter, where, they claw back to 5. And then they roll out, I want to say it's Lonzo, Donovan, Naquan, Bryant, and Tyson. I think that was the 5.
I think that might be right.
And just not a lot of juice on the ball. Not a lot of weren't really able to get anything going offensively. Let Detroit get out in transition, find easy buckets. I do think that's where the depth pieces, especially guys like Sam and Dean being out, really kill you, because like, all right, well, now we're playing guys we just don't know are going to be reliable. And they just had they rolled snake eyes on too many guys in this game. Lonzo was really, really, really rough in his 10 minutes. 2 turnovers to 2 assists. Misses his only wide open attempt, minus 18 in his 10 minutes. Jalen had a really, really rough game.
Yeah, back-to-back rough games for him after being great in that Suns game, right? Because I thought he was really, really terrific against Phoenix.
And then Darius goes 0 of 7 from 3, and there's the ball game. And DeAndre had another weird one. Not a horrible one, but a weird one, I would say.
Yeah. Particularly with those turnovers.
Yeah, the turnovers were tough.
Yeah, and I think turnovers really are one of the stories of these recent games. The Cavs definitely did have some issues going up against Denver's zone. They just didn't attack that on a consistent basis. And Kenny mentioned in the post-game press conference that according to their tracking data, they're 27th in terms of offense against the zone so far this season, which I think
that sounds about right.
I think a big component of that is their issues shooting from the outside, right? Because last season, if you were going zone against the Cavs, you were giving up a lot of good looks to shooters that were in a rhythm. And then this year, the shooting's just been inconsistent, right? Like Darius has been coming up in the right direction, but as you mentioned, tonight was a stinker from him from a shooting aspect. Denis Jenkins going 6 of 6 in the first half, and Darius and Donovan going 0 of 6. Like that's a pretty considerable difference, right? And when you're talking about a game that was lost by a pretty small margin, as you mentioned, some of those guys being out, whether it was Sam in the game against Denver, that
I meant
wasn't
Jared.
available.
Sorry, that was my bad.
Yeah, Sam not being available against Denver obviously hurts, right? Because you're taking another shooter off the floor against a very zone-heavy team. And then in this one, you just weren't able to kind of find that rhythm. And I think one of the consistent threads between the offensive struggles against Denver and Detroit and the success that they've had as of late is against the Spurs and against the Suns. You did have an offense that was very heavily involved when it comes to utilizing the big men, right? They were able to get Jared Roll into the basket. They were using Evan in better ways. And then that kind of pick and roll offense is harder to do against the zone defense. The Cavs were kind of forced to get away from it to some extent. And then against Detroit, you just kind of lose that pick partner. Evan has a very flat game and was not assertive. at all in this one. And all of a sudden you run into those same kind of offensive droughts, right? Where you're not getting that low hanging fruit and those easy offensive buckets. And as a result of that, the offense looks gummed up for stretches of these games.
Yeah, I mean, pretty disappointing effort from Evan. You know, he's got 23 points on 19 shots in his last 2 games. And that's just like, that's not going to do it. That's not
especially when you're talking about 4 of 10 versus Denver and 5 of 9 versus Detroit, and both teams were missing their starting centers, and in Denver's case, almost all of their big men.
Yeah, just not playing with a lot of force. I mean, he had beef stew buried under the rim and pump faked like 3 times and just got blocked. And it's like, hey man, you got to go up fast and with force. Like, it's just not going to play. Do a lot of floaters, a lot of kind of away from the hoop stuff from him in this game. Better on the defensive end, I thought, on balance. But then, like, the glaring number is 3 defensive rebounds in this game.
And 4 total.
And I want to say that 4 Pistons had at least 3 offensive rebounds. Maybe 3 had. Like, you can't be getting out defensive rebounded by, Ron Holland on the offensive glass. Like, that, like, it just doesn't play, especially when, there have been times where I go and look at this team's scheme and they're very switch heavy. And, well, yeah, Devin didn't get a lot of rebounds because he was, 30 feet from the hoop closing out on a guy on a switch. Like, I don't really feel like that's what this game was.
No.
It
was a step slow. It was a step slow offensively. It was on the defensive glass. I thought there were some defensive possessions even. I agree. I think overall he's looking better on the defensive end, but there were still some possessions where he was a step slow. And to me, the biggest tell with Evan of when he's in a rhythm and when he's not is when there is that indecision, right? Whether it's the pump faking or just kind of when you see him processing. Because when Evan's in a groove, the rate at which he makes the reads blows me away. Like he makes all the right reads as a passer. He is quick and assertive as an offensive player. But when that confidence or that rhythm isn't present, that's when he's pump faking. That's when he's kind of second guessing what he's going to do. And I felt a little bit of that basically since he's been back from this calf injury, right? Like I think he's trying to regain that rhythm after some time off. And it almost feels like he's caught between 2 roles, right? Of how they were trying to use him a little earlier in the season, rediscovering that groove of getting back to some of those possessions that he had last year. It just kind of feels like he is caught between those 2 things. And it's funny because physically, I do think that he still looks stronger than he did last year. Like, I think you can tell that he has put on some weight over the offseason. It's just not manifesting it in ways that feel tangible, right? It doesn't feel like...
I don't feel like the balance is better. Don't feel like he's knocking guys off the spot better.
It's a poor rebounding year for him.
The post defense isn't really... I think that's one of his weaker elements right now. Just not really seeing it.
Yeah, and I think we just kind of flat out need more from Evan Mobley right now, right? Like we need to get him back in a rhythm. And sometimes I do think that Cavs fans have object permanence when it comes to him. Like anytime that he has a rut, you're just there being like, a good Mobley does not even exist. We've never seen it. There's been no growth since his rookie year, when there has been so much growth, since his rookie year. I think people forget how dominant he was last year, right? And he absolutely earned that all defensive team, defensive player of the year, second team all NBA. Like, that wasn't just what he was doing on the defensive end. He was a very productive offensive player as well. We're getting to the point of this season where the Cavs trying to reinforce that identity, because I think they have kind of found that at times over this recent stretch. They're playing some really good teams. That win over the Spurs was fantastic. The Suns have been playing great basketball, and you got a pretty good effort out of them. That's a quality win in my eyes. You got real things that you can actually kind of chew on and feel good about lately. So I do feel like they are rediscovering their identity and their form. It's just about reinforcing it so that it actually sustains at the rate that we're accustomed to seeing. And I think getting back to some of that last year usage when it comes to Evan Mobley is one of those steps that needs to be taken.
Yeah, I do think it was a good call that he's still coming back from the calf. I feel like I kind of give him the LeBron treatment sometimes too, where it's like, oh, well, he's out there, so he's fine, you know?
Right.
And like, oh, well, he came back, so he's good, you know? And I'm sure there's some trust being built in his leg and all that stuff. So probably was, a little harsher than maybe I wanted to be, but like, also just, I just really want to see the rebounding continue to flourish. Like, made some great passes in this game. But, again, like, especially with no Jarrett, like, he's got to find inroads to get downhill and generate this team easy buckets because there's just not enough of them short of that, I feel. Especially when Darius and Donovan aren't shooting well, 3 for 17 combined from 3 for those two just makes it really hard for this team to compete if they're not finding those easy buckets. And that's why I felt so validated watching that Spurs game where it's just like attack, get downhill because your margin for error.
Like the most intimidating interior defender that has ever existed.
Yes. And it's like part of it is, and then I looked at that game and Donovan didn't have a very good game. They didn't shoot the ball that well. And yet they still put up a really nice offensive effort and just made San Antonio work and feel them. And I just that's what I don't, and that's what I don't think the Cavs did a great job offensively of in this game. And I think that's why I do have to look at Evan, who is someone who like I just want to hold to that standard at the end of the day. So yeah, it's just a weird time right now because like. The team
if I
is
can cut you some slack here. I don't think you're being unnecessarily harsh, right? Like because we've seen Evan come back very quickly from injuries. Like he usually beats timelines and he usually looks really good when he does. And also like we hold him to a really high standard because he's earned that. He's a really, really good player, and I think it's fair to have high expectations for him and maybe cut him a little less slack than some other players. But it's very clear that he's looking to reestablish that base. Like even when I look at his jumpers, one of the joys of League Pass is getting to kind of watch all the intermissions and the warm-up shots and all that kind of stuff. Like you can kind of tell when he's just like standing getting those catch and shoot threes, it's all arms right now. Like the base isn't really there. It's not really established in the same way as earlier in the season where the form just looked really, really sound. And, there's a mental aspect to this. There's a physical aspect of regaining your confidence. It's all understandable. And I think it's worth noting, like cutting both Detroit and the Cavs some slack, because I thought this was a pretty sloppy game at various points. When you play these early games, they do tend to look sloppy. And obviously the Cavs had played, 30 hours earlier. Detroit, extra day of rest. But still, when you play this early and players are creatures of habit, I think you didn't see the best of Detroit and you didn't see the best of the Cavs in this one. But anytime that you're looking at a very small margin of victory for one team, you can pick and choose basically any aspect and it would have flipped the outcome, right? Like you mentioned that lineup to start the fourth quarter that wasn't very productive. You also had the worst lineup of the game, at least from a score standpoint, which was DG, Sam, Lonzo, Tyson, and Bryant, who were outscored by 13 in basically under 5 minutes. Like Lonzo being a minus 19 in his 9 minutes was a pretty tough outing. And I felt like this was another game where it just felt better for the Cavs when Craig Porter Jr. is out there. And I think this once again goes to what you said earlier, which is if you do have your full cast of characters available here, you can probably make some, a harsher lineup decisions or at least stick with what has been working recently, which just wasn't even an option in Kenny's bag tonight.
Yeah, I will say I don't know if I agree with that. I do think Kenny intended to play Lonzo tonight because, in those two games, even Proctor was getting run ahead of him. They played 8-9 guys against the was that against the Spurs or the Suns? I don't remember who, but Lonzo didn't come off the bench in that game. And I just think the other guys just need to get those minutes right now. The offense is just not where it needs to be. The book is out. Teams are just kind of not playing anything but the pass. And what it's doing is it's just kind of remember this with Ricky when he came back from his major knee injury, is like, you know, if everyone's just playing the pass, your every pass has to be kind of like a miraculously good angle, and you need a lot of help from your teammates. And like I just don't think they're getting the looks they need to get, and like all the soft skill stuff that they get are just, it's just like the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Like I just think it's better to give Donovan or Tyrese Proctor spotting up in the corner right now. So like I would probably go back to that, and if you don't feel like you can play Tyrese Proctor those minutes, because it's not like Tyrese has been great from an efficiency standpoint. Like
no,
I've liked what I've seen better than I've liked the results, you know, with him. And it's more like long-term promise stuff with Tyrese than like, oh, he's got to get on the court right this second. Like short of that, like you just might need to take those 10 minutes and, you know, give 2 more to Sam, 3 more to Craig, 2 more to Bryant. Like, I just don't think you're getting what you need from those minutes right now. But to that point, you know, you talked about all the things that could have swung this game. I'll tell you what kept the Cavs in it in small ways was what a great game for Craig. He's put together so many of these games, Justin, where he is leaving a 25-minute night with 2 points. And, you know, and this sounds like the kind of stuff that like I'm being critical of Lonzo for.
Yeah.
But he is extracting so much excess value out of those minutes. And like I don't think that rookie year Craig was able to do that. Like when Craig was a rookie and was wildly exceeding our expectations for him as a player, it was as a guy who could get you 8 to 10 points in 7 or 8 minutes, and just like, okay, the step back's going, he's finishing in transition, getting above the rim. Okay, great. And like this season, he is really, really upped all the soft parts of his game, where the defensive rebounding is so good. I mean, he immediately comes in the fourth quarter when the game has already kind of slipped away from this team, and just rips down a contested defensive rebound, like violently, and is pushing within a half second. Like the steals have been really timely without being too gambly. The shot blocking has been there. The passing, the getting 2 feet in the paint, it's all been there for him. And like, I just think he just deserves all the credit in the world, because for a second unit that has pretty consistently let this team down this year, like you just can't say that about Craig Porter Jr.
Yeah, like at this point, he's just flat out played better than Lonzo. Like I think as of right now in the 25-26 season, Craig Porter Jr. is a better basketball player. And obviously, you know, single game plus minus, we talk about it all the time. It's one of the worst stats in basketball. It doesn't really tell you the full story. But when you see a trend like this, where the Cavs have not lost Craig Porter Jr.'s minutes since December 22nd, which is 2 weeks ago, like that's the kind of stuff that matters. Like he's coming out there and he's having a positive impact.
Especially for a team that has all the talent and stuff, and like all they need to do, like all you should need to do as a bench player is not lose your minutes. Like, if you can play to a draw, this Cavs team should be good enough to win almost all their games.
I both agree with that, and I want to push back just to a hair, because I think in theory, we expected to be a better shooting team than we've been so far this season. And the fact that we're not does make it a whole lot harder to play Lonzo and for those minutes to be effective, right? Like, I think the net of what we need right now is more what Craig's bringing to the table, which is that rim pressure, the ability to actually get 2 feet into the paint and still be on balance, under control, a threat to score, to kick it out, buying those extra possessions. Like he's doing all of kind of those chaos stats that we were hoping that Lonzo would bring to the table, along with that rim pressure, which has just been lacking. It's been lacking because Darius has been limited physically or not available in the lineup. Donovan has been conserving himself, and obviously he still has those stretches where he is fantastic and we'd be screwed without Donovan, but we're just not getting that consistent rim pressure from even the big men at rates that we're accustomed to. So having that generated by your backup guard and Craig Porter Jr. has been so essential for this team to start to function and operate like we know it's capable of.
Yeah, I don't know. I've just been so impressed. Like, even like when they're being really sloppy and he can just rise up in transition, and I trust that he's gonna get the elevation he needs to get a clean layup. Like, you can't say that about a lot of guys on this team right now. Like, he's got the right amount of burst.
Making's getting better as the year goes along too. Like, I'm really, really impressed.
I just think he deserves all the credit in the world. And like, if he had played 35 minutes tonight, I would have said thank you. Sounds great. Yeah. Like, because he's
particularly because Darius didn't look the same after the stinger on his toe. Like,
and he wasn't shooting. The jumper wasn't going well before
before that. Yeah. So it's, I really, really have been impressed with him. And again, like this is one of those really, really important things from the Cavs front office, that they just continue to identify these guys. And you got to give credit to the coaching staff at with the charge and all the assistants that were putting in work behind the scenes, right? Because this isn't someone that helped, figure things out by playing last season. And this is, the fruits of it. It's someone that didn't get a lot of playing time last season and still developed. And, the importance of the coaching staff saying, hey, you put in the work, we're going to reward you with it. Kenny challenging him over the offseason and those opportunities being made available to him. Like, I think part of it is always going to be, and the largest part of it is always going to be the buy-in of the player to actually go out and do those things. But I do think it is harder to generate that buy-in when there isn't that path made available to them. When they feel like, if I put in all the work, there's no guarantee that I'm going to get an opportunity with the Cavs. And I think you've seen time and time again that if you are putting in the work, you are going to get those opportunities. I think it's one of the best pitches the Cavs have available to them with those two-way roster spots and with, the charge in general, because you can look at Dean, Sam, Craig, Jalen Tyson's a terrific development story, played games down with the charge. Naquan Tomlin's another hit, right? Like, even Tyrese Proctor, as you said, I understand it's theoretical, but you watch him play and you're like, it is probable that he is going to be a rotation player in the NBA. Having that many of those hits on the margins is essential for rebuilding the depth of this team to be able to make some of those tough decisions, particularly for a second apron team. So, Craig is just kind of the latest example of really establishing himself. But even some of what we saw from Naquan Tomlin in these last two games has been awesome to see. So I do think
Tomlin
that's
on
a
ball
macro thing that really matters.
Tomlin on ball, like, and I don't think he had a great game tonight.
No, he didn't.
Or this afternoon. And
there were flashes, but he did not have.
And
a great
there
game.
are points against Denver, which I was in the arena and I didn't watch it at broadcast angle, and it's harder to analyze. But like, I don't think he was like awesome against Denver either. But what I will say is he is really showing some on ball flashes. Like, a lot of these on ball blocks are pretty nuts. Like, he's really chopping the feet. And like, I really trust him to. On the few possessions where he was guarding Cade, like, I really trusted him, like, in a pure ISO situation, to be able to hang. And I think it's kind of nice for him, just because, like, hey, don't worry about scheme. Don't worry about, like, help and digs and all that stuff. Like, just go be a freak, a coordinated freak with long arms. And, like, he's like, got it, I can do that. And there were a few possessions in each of these last 2-3 games. I think he got Booker a couple times, too. Against the Suns, where it's like, man, more of that, brother. Especially for a team that, frankly, hasn't had a lot of possessions where defender just shuts the water off of the offensive player.
No, and that's definitely something we need to get to. But one of the things that I do like when it's Naquan Tomlin or basically any defender these days, the Cavs seem very, very ready to pounce on the loose ball if it gets poked out. Like Darius and Donovan has done a really good job of that. Craig is always there. Like, whether it's Naquan Tomlin, whoever the on-ball defender is, when they're gambling for those steals, the two closest defensive players on the Cavs are ready to pounce it and turn that into a transition opportunity. Like, as much as I have, my quibbles with the Cavs offensively these last couple games, I do feel like the effort level is there. I feel like the transition defense has largely gotten a whole lot better. I think their overall effort in these games, like I don't think any of these were effort losses on the defensive end at the very least. Like, I do feel like this team is getting more in sync, and they're doing it without the help of Zoom Workplace. But if you are a team, you got to use Zoom Workplace, Carter, because teams move fastest when everybody's in sync. Zoom Workplace keeps meetings, chats, documents, and more together so your work flows like a perfect play. Keep work moving and zoom ahead with Zoom Workplace.
I was getting ready to steal the read before you did it.
Yeah, I gotta anticipate that. I gotta make sure that I'm not turning the ball over like the Cavs, because the Cavs these last two games have been very turnover prone. On the season, they are one of the more responsible teams with the basketball. After tonight's game, they are still 8th in terms of turnover percentage. They average 14 turnovers a game, which is good. That's one of those stats, kind of like open threes allowed, where the number is jarring, but then you look at the rest of the league and that's just what happens. But these last two games, they have 17 turnovers in each. Obviously tied the Pistons today when it comes to the turnovers, but I do feel like the live ball turnover percentage with this team has been too high as of late. And it's been one of those things that is making rediscovering that offensive rhythm a little more complicated.
Yeah, I mean, I no way to say it. I think they just weren't that sharp with the ball today, and some of it's like a mistake begets a worse mistake. Like, I think about the play where Darius threw the ball and got pick-sixed trying to get the ball to Sam. He turned down a wide open wing three and then tried to squeeze the ball into Sam without a live dribble. And, like, I want to say it was Javonte Green. Maybe it was one of the Asar Thompson or Holland. One of their their small army of monster defender wings. Just like, it was like the easiest steal in the world for them.
Yeah.
And it's like, you have to be sharp with your decision making, and like when you're playing a defense like this, especially, like, you got to attack. Like, I don't think that the turnovers in this game were cut from the same cloth as the turnovers from the Denver game. For what it's worth,
the Denver one felt worse.
from my seat, Denver felt lazy, and kind of like, well, we're gonna win this game. Like, I felt like the entire Denver game from the arena felt like the team playing with its food and almost getting burned. Whereas I think the Pistons turnovers were a result of indecisiveness or poor process.
Yeah.
And
the problem solving wasn't.
And funny enough,
right?
I'm more troubled by these. You said you were more frustrated by the Denver one. I was more frustrated by these.
Yeah, well, maybe some of that is, Denver. I definitely felt the same way. I thought the effort was there on the defensive end, but offensively, the process just wasn't sharp, right? And it was me being like, hey, I know you guys can do better. Whereas versus Detroit, like, yeah, Asar Thompson and Cade Cunningham are like two of the better defenders in the league. Like, you're going to
Cade
run
Cunningham?
Oh, yeah, okay, fair. Not Cade, but Asar is definitely one of the better defenders in the
I'm old
league.
enough to remember you trashing this man's defense.
Cade, he's come a long way. He has
Asar,
come a long way in the defensive
Holland,
end.
Green, they've got plenty of unbelievable defenders. That's for sure.
They've got a lot of defensive talent on the team. Cade has come a long way on the defensive end. I'm pleased with him defensively. But it's a lot of length, right? It's a lot of length and it's a lot of strength. And I do agree. Like, when it comes to Darius turning down shots, I think that's where he really gets into trouble because he's kind of forcing it. And when it comes to the turnovers, I'm probably harsher on DG than just about anyone on this team because over his career, we know that he takes really good care of the basketball relative to his usage, right? Like, I talked about it last season. Jaw season was a bit of a hiatus, but the year prior as well, he was just behind Jokic when it came to assist to turnover percentage. And it's not like tonight was terrible. 6 assists to 2 turnovers, like a 3-to-1 ratio is really good. But there definitely are a lot of possessions this season where I feel like he is leaving his feet without a plan. And he's getting into trouble as a result of that. And I think some of that might be related to whatever pain he's still experiencing with the toe, because you would see him kind of Steve Nash a little more frequently in the past, where he keeps the dribble alive and keeps probing. Whereas this year, it's like, okay, I don't really want to do that kind of plan. So I'm in the paint and I'm not doing a layup. I'm not throwing up a floater, and I'm leaving off 2 feet. I'm turning around and I'm pitching it out to the 3-point line. Like, I understand that he is toughing out a lot and he's playing through injuries. But when you're figuring out what you can and can't get away with, I think that is something that kind of needs to be taken out of his repertoire, because those type of contortionist passes where he doesn't really have a plan when he's leaving his feet, not only is it risky from an offensive perspective, it's risky from a physical perspective, because you are landing in these weird corkscrew type of ways, and you're just, increasing the likelihood that you're going to aggravate that injury. So I would like to see a little bit more decisiveness out of him. Just even if it's a night like tonight where the shot isn't falling, just don't turn down the open shots, right? Like, because it's always going to result in a possession that's a little bit more sketchy than it needs to be.
Yeah, it's just, I guess, a team like this specifically, like, you can't turn down a great shot. You're just not allowed. Like,
no,
like you won't get a better one. You just won't. And I know the jumper wasn't feeling good today, and but like, if you're out there, you got to take those shots. You just have to. And before we move, because I do want to just talk about some macro stuff before the end of the pod of like, hey, are we okay? We good? But before we do that, I have one last thing I want to hit on, because I think it flared up both against Denver and against Detroit. Cavs got away with it against Denver, didn't against Detroit. The in-game offense is a problem, Justin.
Mm-hmm.
They're not passing. They're not moving. It's just pure ISO ball. I feel like I'm watching the Cavs from 6 years ago right now, and just saying, Colin, see what you can get us. And like, that was not the first name I was expecting, but yeah. But absolutely. Doesn't it feel that way a little bit? And like, I just don't. I think it kind of points to a lack of belief in their process right now. Like, and again, I'm armchair psychologizing again, making up a verb, Ben Stiller style. But like, I think if you don't trust anyone but Donovan to get a shot up at the end of the game, you've got bigger problems than, a loss against Detroit in January. Yeah. If you don't trust anyone else to make a hard choice with the ball in crunch time, like, we've got bigger problems. And I'm just seeing it over and over again in these games where it's just maybe one action. Typically the ball is walked up. And it's like, we don't have the personnel for that, to be honest. No. And like, I know that we had quibbles with their process late game last year too. The bigs usage went way down, and it was a lot of Darius or Donovan playing hero ball and succeeding. But like, at least that was Darius or Donovan, and I know,
and there was more ball movement just in general,
you were at least
too,
setting
right?
screens, you were doing stuff on the weak side. It kind of feels like nothing's happening late game. And like, it's just, if I have a thing that like, I was frustrated by, them running out the lineup. They got killed in the second to start the fourth. But if I was actually frustrated by anything in this game, because everything else I could kind of point to, contextualize, et cetera, like, the process in these late games is just not good enough.
Yeah.
It requires their defense to win them games. I just kind of don't think their defense is good enough to win them games in crunch time right now.
No, defense can be part of the story of why they win in crunch time, right?
Yeah,
like,
it can't be the whole story, though.
It absolutely can't be. And it's tough because last year, despite some of our quibbles about the big man usage, it was the best clutch team in the NBA, right? They had the most clutch wins. They basically a plus 20 net rating in the clutch, whereas this year they're down to 19th in terms of clutch net rating. And obviously, we know that this team has used a wide variety of lineups throughout the season. And
they're 21st in clutch offense, by the way. 104.9 offensive rating.
All right, so the defense is what's, carrying them to some extent to the success that they have had in the clutch. But it just needs to be better. And it was frustrating too in this one because Donovan was so electric in getting them back in this game. I thought some of the most inspired defense that he's played all season.
Yep, agreed.
The shot making was fantastic. Like Donovan did not want to lose this game. And then he throws a really, really bad pass, trying to get over Isaiah Stewart, and basically that ends the game, right? So they just got to find those ways to continue. One, throughout the entire game, not just the clutch, they need to rediscover and, stick with those bread and butter plays, the stuff that works for them, maintain their identity, be decisive with the basketball, and then maintain that once it gets to those clutch possessions, right? Because I think both of that is kind of, I think that it's not, it's two sides of the same coin, right? Just like that game against Denver, they lose that 2 weeks ago. I firmly believe they lose that 2 weeks ago because that's the game against the Knicks pretty much, right? Like I think the team that we saw against Denver probably, or at least the team we saw against the Spurs and the Suns, win the game against the Knicks. But the Knicks, their bad habits caught up to them, right? Particularly in the clutch. I thought the bad habits from when they weren't playing well ended up coming back and biting them. I think the habits on the whole, right? Like when you're talking about the macro, I think everything is trending in a much, much more positive direction. And I don't think I'm just being prisoner of the moment, because I said before any of this started turning around that when this turns around, it's not going to be a flipping of the switch. They're not all of a sudden going to be back. It's going to take some time to turn this around. And there's going to be setbacks. There's going to be stretches that don't look good. There's going to be games like Houston that look like crap. But they are ultimately going to be turning this thing around and heading in a more positive direction. That's where I feel that this team is. But I think it makes sense that for a team that can't maintain their offensive flow for an entire game yet, I think that those issues get magnified in the clutch. And I think those are the type of issues that we've seen be magnified in the playoffs as well. So getting this right and getting the process right in those moments, I think is one of the most essential and important things that the Cavs can possibly accomplish in the remainder of this regular season.
So let's talk about it, Justin. Is this team headed in the right direction? Because I feel a little funky about it right now. They have, in my opinion, I think they've put 8 games in a row of 7 of 8, games where I would define them as playing pretty well to good. You could quibble with the Nuggets game, but I was there, so it was fun for me anyway. So, you between 6 and 7, like good process games out of 8, where I think both of us, at least, and I won't include the world's opinion, just the two of ours, where I think we were like, okay, yeah, we're seeing some stuff. And then you look at it and they're 5-3. It's like, like we're kind of like in a weird spot where we're saying, hey, you're showing us all the stuff we were asking for. We're starting to see the effort get a lot better. The team's getting healthier on balance compared to what they were earlier in the season. And the results kind of aren't following, like we're feeling like they're finally playing decent basketball compared to their standard, and they're 5-5 in their last 10. And I just don't know what to make of it. I feel like I said this in a group chat earlier in the night. I said, I think folks need to see them win 6 or 7 in a row just to like put a stamp of like, hey, we're ready to go be one of the best teams in the conference again. And I'm folks, Justin.
Folks are you.
Folks are me.
I'm going to disagree. I think it's important for me to bring up what you said beforehand, but before the stretch even occurred, when we were coming off of that frustrating loss on Christmas. You said they could play really well and lose all of these games. They could start going in the right direction, start playing Cavs basketball, and still lose all of these games. Just going over, the last 8 games. So I'm not even taking the Houston one out of this. The Cavs are 7th in net rating. They are 5th in offensive rating. They are 8th in defensive rating. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Want to know what other teams have performed really well over those last 8 games? 4th in net rating is the Phoenix Suns, that the Cavs got a quality win over. The Detroit Pistons are 6th. The San Antonio Spurs are 8th. We are playing some of the hottest teams in the league that are playing really good basketball over this recent stretch and performing very well against them. Yes, Jalen Duren was out for the Pistons, but reality is the Cavs have won that matchup every single time. They have dominated Jalen Duren.
But they haven't played this version of Jalen Duren. In fairness, he was going to be an all-star.
Did he not play in that first matchup early in the season?
Yeah,
yes, he did.
It was early on, though. It was early on. All I'm saying is that guy has been the best big of anyone on either team so far this season.
Look, if teams get to be unfair when they've dominated a matchup against us, I get to be a little unfair and smarmy and a bit of a dick about this matchup.
You're allowed. I just have to contextualize. That man has been a top 2 or 3 big in the conference this year.
And they got down by 35 against a Cavs team that wasn't playing very well. Flowers to you, Jalen Duren. Yeah, they were missing guys, but again, the Cavs were missing more. They were missing a lot of size against a team that you need to have that size, right? Sam Merrill is playing power forward. You can't tell me that this game is very representative of what this matchup would be when both teams are
I'm not
healthy.
even talking about this matchup, to be clear. I'm talking about just the general...
I get what you're saying, but I feel really good about the direction this team is heading because I feel like they are making these positive strides, right? I never expected it to be a flip of the switch and just everything was going to be better for this team. I think that they are playing much, much better on both ends. I think they are getting closer to rediscovering that identity. I think the involvement of Jared Allen has been really, really important and
so
crucial,
important. Right? I was so sad I missed that Spurs recap pod because it was everything I spent 15 minutes talking about the prior pod come to fruition.
You were bang on. You were absolutely bang on. And I think that ultimately this team is at its best when it runs through the bigs. Not that the bigs are the best players on this team, but that is the clearest path to balance and a healthy offensive ecosystem, because when they're involved, we know there is no game where the bigs are so involved that it takes away from the guards. There are games where the guards are so involved that it takes away from the bigs, right? And I think that is the most important thing. That is why getting those guys involved is so essential. So I feel very, very confident about where this team's heading. I do still have some macro concerns, obviously. I think the stretches that they've had this season are demons that are going to haunt them and something that they're going to have to combat throughout this year. I'm worried that even though he is playing much better basketball as of late, there's always kind of these little stingers for Darius, right? How long is it going to be? This is a injury that when you look at other players historically, it does kind of take them that next season to go through the wear and tear and everything with it. So there's certainly a lot of concerns, but I do think that this team is more talented than the way that they're playing. I think that they are heading in the right direction, and I overall I feel very encouraged about what I've seen from them.
I feel a little encouraged. I think
I feel better than the 7 the 7 out of 9 stretch that we had earlier in the season. This 5-3 feels much more like the Cavs than what we saw back then.
That I would agree with. I just think they do need to get that 5, 6, 7 game win streak. They need to win 8 out of 10. They need to start showing. They need to start converting.
Yeah.
This into positive results because season's just getting eaten up a little bit. They're down to 20 and 17. They just won 3 in a row
out of 4.
But they need to go capture it and then take hold of it. That's what I really need to see them do. Yeah. And they got through the hell stretch, and I'm not saying the upcoming stretch is easy, but it's certainly easier. At Indy, at Minnesota, versus Utah.
Those Minnesota games are going to be tough.
And then 2 road games in Philly. They got to come out of that maybe with 1 or 2 losses. like that. Like they need to start showing it and converting these, because one thing that you got to be careful about if you're this coaching staff is, all right, we're getting the effort, we're getting the buy-in that we needed at the beginning of the year, and we're getting the same results. Like, that's when doubt starts to creep in. We're all working really, really hard, and now we have to really trust in ourselves because we're not getting the results, even though our process is much better. So I just want to see it. I'm not worried. I don't feel, I agree with you in the macro. I just don't feel quite as encouraged because I just need to see more stuff start to come together, you know? I need to see DeAndre get close to what he was last year for this team.
Yeah.
I mean, I gotta see Darius be able to put together 7 games in a row of him looking really good and not worrying that we're gonna have the bottom dropout. I gotta see X, Y, and Z. I gotta see good late game execution, which I really don't think I've seen much this year. So I just want to see those kinds of things with some consistency. I just think some trust needs to get built up back with this team after, it's been a really rough start to the year.
I think all of that is fair. I think it would do a lot to kind of rebuild and reinforce that confidence for a lot of people. And for others, they'll say this is just the regular season and it doesn't matter. But we don't need to worry about that.
We'd have a lot of short podcasts if that were the case.
Absolutely. We know that we think that the regular season absolutely matters, and hopefully this positive momentum keeps going in the right direction. Because I do think what resonated the most out of what you said there is that if the process improves and the results don't, I do think that that's where doubt starts to creep in. I think that's where seasons can actually come off the rails. So hopefully they will continue keeping this healthy process, and hopefully the shots start falling. Hopefully guys get healthy. This flu bug that's going through the team, hopefully that goes away. Get your vitamin C in, boys, and we will be back after Tuesday's game. Big thanks to everyone that tuned in live. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Click that notification bell so you know when we're going live. If you're listening via podcast and you want to support us, leave us a rating, leave a review, subscribe, unsubscribe, resubscribe, and help cook those books. If you want to be part of Chase Down's exclusive Discord chat, send a screenshot of the view to chasedownpod@gmail.com. However you choose to support us, we really do appreciate it. Make sure you guys are staying safe out there. Until next time, go Cavs.